Welcome to another Sunday morning conversation, everybody. Today, my guest is Yorlliry Moreno. He's a Venezuelan pro triathlete. He is also a swim coach, and his goal is to hold the Ironman 70.3 and Ironman Venezuelan pro record for those distances. He's also a swim coach for the Finns swim team down in the Bluffton area, little town outside of that. We have a nice talk. I always was interested in Venezuelan pro athletes because I didn't know if there was that many. And, with the turmoil going on in that country, between knowing who their president is, I thought it would be very interesting to talk to him. And it was. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Hey,
man, that's some long hair.
Yeah, it's very long and I can't wait to get rid of it.
Oh, really? Why'd you grow it out for?
I had a bet with some of the kids I coach on the swim team. During COVID, there was, everyone has their issues and they were going through some stuff. And we were just talking because our pool was just closed the week before. And we were just, talking about the future or whatever. And I made a crazy bet that I said I would let my hair grow out until I get the Venezuelan national record in an Ironman or half Ironman. And COVID lasted a little longer than expected. So it's been, I didn't get to race for almost a full year. And then the one race I did get to do and I was on pace for, I got guided, it was Ironman Florida, and I got guided to Alabama. So I was off course for a while. So
wow.
So I didn't finish. So now I'm going to Texas in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So I'll have my shot at redemption there.
What is the Venezuelan national record?
It's 8:44 for the Ironman.
Okay.
And for the half, it's 3:57, 3:58. So Venezuela doesn't have a developmental group team access to
got bigger problems down there.
yeah. So but they don't really focus on the long stuff. They only focus on the short stuff. They're very ITU centric, very sprint and Olympic. So there's no resources for me to benefit from being part of the Venezuelan Federation, except I get to represent the country I was born in and have that kind of that little bit of a pride hanging while I race. But other than that, you're pretty much solo unless you do go that ITU route, which unfortunately I'm too slow of a runner to do.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I blanked on it. Sorry, I have a brain injury, so sometimes I blank on things.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, and I got mine from an accident, and I got hit by a car. So, you said you coach swimming. How long have you? Is it a USS team?
It's a USA swim team. I was the assistant coach for it back in 2014. That's when I started pursuing that crazy dream of being a professional triathlete. And 2 years later, the coach that started it, who was my swim coach growing up, got a new job opportunity. He was just leaving the state, and we kind of got into the understanding that if I didn't take over the team wasn't going to exist. Because I had pretty good relationships with the parents and the kids and everything. So I took it off his hands. I invested in it. And then for now I'm going into my 7th year as a head coach of it's a USA swim team.
Yeah.
So it's a club team, a year round.
We used to call them USS teams back when I swam on it like 20 years ago. So
okay. Yeah.
Okay. And how does it do? You live, I don't want to call it the booties, but you live out by Hilton Head.
Yeah, I am like a 30-minute drive from Hilton Head. I'm in a place called Hardyville, which is on the outskirts of Bluffton. That's essentially where I started. And I'm 15 minutes from Savannah, Georgia. But I am in a place where there's really, man, it's growing. It's about to start growing. There's a new port coming in. There's a couple plans of development coming around here, but it's isolated roads, country roads, flat country roads. Just a lot of wind.
Good practice. That's good practice for Texas and Florida.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And so I'm about an hour and a half from Augusta. So I mean, it's nothing to, early morning drive and then get a good session in Augusta. where there's a little bit of climbing and then be able to come back. That or my Wahoo kicker. I have the Wahoo kicker climb. So there's
Yeah.
my climbing.
I have a Wahoo kicker too. Do you have any training buddies down there in your area?
I have a couple friends, just local riders. There's no professional that lives around here. In Savannah, they do have like some really strong cyclists, and occasionally when the schedule allows it, I'll go ride with them. They're local cycling guys that are like insanely strong. They're really strong guys. But running, just a couple friends. I have like one of my best friends who's a personal trainer here. Train with him a lot. He's a little quicker than I am on the run. Swimming, I coach a guy that has his Olympic trial cuts in a couple events. So I coach him, but I also swim with him occasionally, or I just go ahead and get humbled by, like, a 14-year-old girl on the swim team when I swim with them occasionally. So I try to mix it up here and there.
I used to coach a master swim team up here in Atlanta, the Rainbow Trout. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Masters are completely different than US swimming.
That's where I started. That's how I started. I started coaching a masters team, a local masters team, and obviously working with adults is different than working with children, especially when you talk about like the communication part of it. So but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I used to sum it up as, you do whatever I tell you to, only if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Adults, you can't tell them to do anything. And the Atlanta Rainbow Trout, they're a gay-friendly, inclusive team. So it was like social hour there, but it was really fun. I mean, it was definitely interesting. I'm not gay, but it was like watching TV there for me. It was exciting. So
yeah, no, it's always fun because especially in masters where you have like literally all walks of life, and they're very, they've obviously lived longer than I have, but they live their life, they live their own truth. So it's fun because it's who they are, instead of like a kid who's still finding who they are, who their identity is. So it's like you don't have to tiptoe as much. So that makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and for masters, it's all about what time do you practice rather than who the people you are with.
Yeah. That's very, they work. They have to work.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people who get in a lunchtime swim. There's people who are early. Trout was from 7:30 to 9 at night. So that's when do you practice?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, in Beaufort County, where we're at, we have a huge dilemma when it comes to the pool. Our pool that we currently swim in is closed. The ceiling apparently was falling down, and it has been for years. There's been problems there, but it's been very neglected for a very, very long time. And everything just caught up recently. So I'm a coach without a pool, but we were making it work by traveling to like Beaufort to swim. And some of the parents, they're carpooling. We're coming together really close to the community to work. So we didn't have, the master team now is spread apart in all different areas and facilities because we don't have a pool. The only county pool that is in Bluffton is closed, has been closed. And then they did these things with limited hours, and it just made it very hard for people to be able to swim. Like, for example, masters, everybody works, but they opened up the pool at 8 a.m. They're working. And then they closed it at one point, they were closing it at 6 p.m. Then they extended it to 7 p.m. But that's, you're getting out of work at 5 and they're having trouble getting in. And a lot of it is because of neglect. And also just, and not that I'm putting fault on anybody, but it's also just ignorance. They just don't know. They really don't care. And if it wasn't brought up to them before, or if it is being brought up to them, it doesn't affect them. So you have a pool that's 6 lanes, 25 yards, that was built back in 2001 to house maybe like a community of 9,000 people. Fast forward to, now, and Bluffton is right around like 52,000 people now, expanding to like the Oakity side where there's more housing and development. And it's just growing. And there has been I'm talking about zero talks about building another aquatic facility or a pool. They don't we brought it up obviously as a swim coach, and we have a giant swim community in Hilton Head and Savannah and all around this area. You know, we brought it up. We've been to those meetings and said stuff, and it just always been one of those things where it's like, yeah, well, you know, we don't really care. I mean, yeah, it's, again, I'm not trying to point fingers or put anybody at blame or anything like that, but it's just, there's a big lack of, and that's what, like, me personally, with a handful of, you know, good natured people around here, I started a nonprofit last year for that specific reason. Some people volunteer their time to write up proposal plans, and that's what we're going to be working on the next couple of months, is how can we present this to donors so we can bring a facility or some kind of aquatic facility with maybe a track or somewhere safe for people to run and even bike, because it's very dangerous to bike around Bluffton, to this general area, because it's 54,000 people, and it's growing, and it's projected to have over 70 in the next 10 years because of how much housing is being developed and how much opportunities are coming towards this region, especially like where I live in Hardyville, where there's maybe like a population of like maybe 3,000 people.
So the ceiling tiles, it's the acoustical tiles, the 2x4 ones that fell down?
Well, no, not so. If you can imagine a triangle with
Okay.
the beams, and then they had panels that were for insulation. I don't know what there were some panels that were falling off after a couple, let's just say after like 9 years of the pool being built, 3 years of people complaining that the panels were falling off. Then they decided to take those panels off, that insulation off, and left it bearing. And it's a pool that has really no central AC, or not really, it never really worked well. And also the dehumidifier never really worked past 50%. So you have a place where it's all enclosed, there's sliding doors, but the doors are usually closed. So you have a place that's enclosed, and it just, the humidity just rotted away like the ceiling itself. So you had, for a period of years, we had rust falling into like the pool, and occasionally some of the kids, and it's just been neglected. And then, you know, things that anybody, even the people that work there, you literally walk in and you can't miss it, because it's the entire ceiling, is the entire area that's like, it's falling, it's on the pool deck, it's in the pool, it's all around. And it was just neglected for a while. And it's always, you know, the excuse was, it's like, well, there's not enough money for the budget, we don't have the funds to do that yet. If we have to do this pool, then we have to do the other pools in Buford. But there was never like a proper solution for it. So now it's just gotten to that point where they closed it down about a month ago, and the community still hasn't heard a thing on like what's going to happen, or when they're going to open, or what they're going to do. So we're pretty much in the dark, but we're making it work however we can.
Well, that's good. So
yeah,
as a pro triathlete, you made a big jump pretty quick from when you started about 2015, right?
Yeah.
And then
So like I graduated university in 2013, and I, you know, went right into the work field. I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, so I worked at a clinic for a while. And right before I went to go get what we call the equivalent of the master.
I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze. Let's see. No, it's not me. I'm connected.
Hey, lost
Hey,
you
man.
there. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. I know where to clip
Sorry.
it to cut that out.
Okay, tell me exactly where I left off.
You were talking about starting to do some certificate or something for your physical therapy.
Oh yeah. So what I ended up doing is I was leaving that job after a couple of months to go back to school to become a PT, to get, I guess, like I said, the doctorate or the equivalent of a master's, to become a physical therapist. And but at that time, I kind of realized that I didn't like the hours. I didn't like that whole thing because it didn't fall in line with what I wanted to do, which was to be that professional triathlete. The times wouldn't line up. So I ended up I applied for a job here called Sun City Hilton Head, which is a 50 and older community. And I applied to be like their health and wellness manager. So I was there for 2.5 years. That was 2000, like at the end of 2013, all the way to 2015. And I worked for them as their health and wellness manager. I started tacking on, I enjoyed it. I loved coaching. I loved doing all that stuff. But then I started taking care of the gym. So they had like one main gym, and then they had a couple other gyms around the premises of the university, what they call university grounds of the of that place, and started taking care of those gyms. Then started training the trainers, started training the personal trainers, and I got really like in it, and I absolutely loved it. But then one day I realized, well, I think I was watching an Ironman on TV, and they were interviewing, I think it was either Sebastian Kienle at one point in this Ironman, and he says, if you don't, in something that stuck with me, he said something along the lines of, if you don't fully commit yourself into this sport, you won't have success into this sport, something along the lines of that. And then I, put a step back and said, oh shit, I am dedicating about 40 plus hours of time that I could be training for my dream of being a triathlete to this other thing. And then I put in my 2 weeks notice after that realization.
Woo, that's risky.
I said, yeah, and I saved money, but I didn't want to touch the savings. So what I ended up doing is I flipped stuff on Facebook Marketplace for a bit, or the Craigslist and all that stuff. So I would find literally free like chairs, tables and stuff. And because my dad's a painter, he had all the tools in the garage, and I just scraped crap off, repainted it, and then sell it for $100 or $200. And that's what I used to, like, my nutrition, for racing, for buying stuff for the bike. There was a good period of like 8 months where I just ate ramen noodles because I didn't want to spend money, because I wanted to buy a better bike or get onto something, like better aero helmet and go for that. So I did that, and then it took me about a year of like, just, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just, I need to bike a lot, I need to swim a lot, I need to run a lot. And the Venezuelan Federation gave me a call. They said, we've seen some of your times. I did Miami Man. I've done Ironman Chattanooga. I went to Lake Placid. I've done a bunch of races, half Ironman in Florida. And they said, hey, we would like to use you because we don't have the personnel in the United States. And because of the current state of our country, we need people out of the country that can easily travel around the race. And they signed me up for their
You don't even know who your president is.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it was weird because at that moment I was already on the verge of getting my USAT license. I was going the route of getting, coming within top 8% in 3 races that calendar year, and I was pretty much on route. I needed to do one more race, and I was going to use because I did St. Anthony's and that went well. I did Ironman Florida, Haines City, that went well, and then I was going to go off to do either Chattanooga or something else because I qualified for Worlds. I was, the Ironman, the all world athlete and all that stuff. But they said, we need a guy and we need to start racing for the Federation. And I said, sure, sign me up. And that's how I got my pro card back in 2015. And my very first pro race was, I'm not even joking, a month and a week after I signed, and got my pro license, and they put me at a World Cup in Sarasota where you had up and coming Vincent Louis, Henry Schumann, like coming into this race, and it was what what a freaking experience. I got murdered in the swim where I swore I was going to come with the lead pack because I've done the test swims plenty of times, and I was like, no, I'll be pretty good. I'm hitting their times. I'm pretty good on the turns. Like, I'm confident. I swim the ocean all the time. No. I got punched. I got beaten. I got dragged. I had all these guys rolling like threw me on the turns. I knew absolutely nothing, and then I ended up coming out almost dead last in the swim. Worked with 3 or 4 other guys to start picking people off on the bike because I feel confident on my bike to be strong. We worked together, but it didn't make a dent in the leaders at all. And then on the run, I was fortunate enough to not get lapped by Henry Schumann and Vincent Louis that day. And I just jogged it in, and then they said, and then, what made it funny is that the president of the Venezuelan Federation Triathlon Federation, that president was there at that race to see me race, and they had a couple other athletes there that were doing other divisions. He said, look, man, I just want you to know that we want to use you as a domestique. We don't really want you to win these races because your run's a little slow. And he just laid it out flat for me. From then on, it was the contract, or what I was going to do is if I could help a different country that's like maybe needed the extra hand on the bike or the swim, where I did the pulling so they can come out of the bike fresh to run, or even one of my own teammates they were just better runners. That's what I was going to do, and I was completely fine with it because I thought it was just cool to be part of it. That lasted probably 6 months, and then I don't know the details, but like the president of the federation wasn't allowed to travel anymore, and we couldn't sign up to any more races. But I had a pro card, and I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna race what I originally wanted, which was Ironman distance. And I just started going to these races, and it allowed me to continue my professionalism throughout the rest of the year.
So let me tell you something about making money when you don't have one. Do you know anything about donating plasma?
No, absolutely nothing at all.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? Because I'm on disability now, and I'm not supposed to, well, I can't actually work, and I donate plasma. You can, like, on average, you make 50, 60 bucks a time. So you can make like on that, like about 500 bucks a month if you donate twice a week.
What?
And, yeah. And here's the nice thing, right? It doesn't hurt your athletic performance because they're taking your plasma, which is the water from your blood, not your actual blood, which, would kill your capacity to race.
Yeah. So
it rebounds days.
Okay. So is there like designated areas that I would go to?
Yeah, there's a plasma,
or is it just a hospital?
There's probably there's a plasma center. There's probably one in like Bluffton or something.
Okay.
That's what we did.
Google that.
Yeah, that's what we did for money, and like a lot of people are doing it these days. It's like, oh, okay, but yeah, that's how I bought extra stuff and upgraded a bike.
Yeah, I wish I knew that earlier, because I swear, I literally just went and picked up stuff from random people's yards and just scraped it down. I even offered like swim lessons and stuff like that, and that's what got me into coaching. I just started doing like little swim lessons, and then my coach hired me to be the master's coach when we had a master's team. And then he's like, why don't you coach the younger kids? So I joined and did the younger kids. And then the older kids liked me. So I started coaching the older kids. And then slowly but surely, I became the head coach. And right now, it's like, I'm completely like, I'm self-funded. I've done a terrible job when it comes to trying to apply for sponsorships. Without saying too many excuses, it's just I'm lazy, I guess, or I'm not very marketable yet. I should definitely get on YouTube more or on TikTok, but I'm completely self-funded, and not that I enjoy it, but I'm still living the dream that I wanted on my terms. So it's I'm always looking for that next sponsorship or something like that, and I've always gotten like little bites here and there, and companies saying, yeah, we would love to have you, we love your personality, we want for you to represent us and all that stuff. And then when I do the follow-up email, it's always like it's gone. It's like they never respond back. So I was like, oh.
Well, let me tell you something about the YouTube stuff, because I've been doing this for 2 years now, and I take a different angle to it than everybody else does. Everybody else is strictly triathlons and stuff, but for the most part, mine's the traumatic brain injury stuff. And I interview people for a couple of reasons, but I find people that I think are interesting. Like I've never met a person. Well, I've met tons of pros, but I've never met anybody from Venezuela who I knew before we even talked. I'm like, this dude's probably got some problems due to the fact that Venezuela has a lot of
problems. there's so many. There's so many. I have yet to be able to go race in Venezuela because there are races coming up. Don't get me wrong. Like the state of the country is it's very poor from what it was many years ago. I guess I have a lot of family that lives there. Almost all my entire family lives there if they haven't migrated already. But they do have some races in some of the areas where it's like very, I want to say touristy, because there's a lot of people that still own a lot of land over there, and it's prosperous because you have a lot of private companies that own a lot of oil, and there's still a lot of like amazing, beautiful stuff going on. And then you have like the other side of the spectrum where it's like they're not really eating well. And they're struggling to get certain things, electricity being cut off. But like I said, there are races down there. It's just that there's no flights to there. So I would have to fly to a different country, which has flights to Venezuela, or I would fly to Colombia and then take a bus into Venezuela. And even that's risky, especially if you're carrying like an expensive bike or expensive anything, because they lose on transport, they lose certain stuff. So I would have to actually have like, I've talked about it with family and people that live there or that are doing it. Like, how can I go there? Because I obviously want to be there, and check it out and see family. But it's just, it's hard. It's very hard, especially now that I'm a dad. It's really hard to like.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. So it's very hard to just say, hey, I'm going to take my 1.5-year-old and my wife to Venezuela. And this is how we're going to do it by, going on an adventure first.
Yeah. And if you start up that YouTube, you just got to find an angle that's so much different than your else, because like, since I started doing it within like the last year, it's become super saturated because every pro started doing it and they have their own channels. Like, but
yeah, I see.
You have to find a kind of a niche about it. What makes you different from all them? That's the only advice I would have. Because I'm not strictly triathlon, but most people watch injury.
Yeah, I'm a very I love coaching. I absolutely I didn't realize how much I would love coaching until like a couple years into it, where it's like, I don't get me wrong, my dream is always to be like a relevant professional triathlete, where it's like they know who I am, or I'm like relevant in the races and maybe potentially have a chance to win one here and there. Like I that's my dream, that's my goal. But as the journey progressed and I figured out methods and ways to be a pro and stay a pro feasibly, like with money, this coaching stuff, man, it's unreal how much joy I get from watching. Like I've coached a kid that's when she was 9 and now she's 14, winning states or getting to that level. Or I was at the meet when the guy I coached got his Olympic trial cut, which, listen, at that level as a coach, 98% of the work was all on him. I maybe take credit of like 1%, just being part of it. But it was amazing being there and then getting that like cut. It felt like I was doing it as well. Like we made it, we did it. It was, I love, like I enjoy coaching to such a degree where I'm fighting the county to give us a dang pool so we can actually, have a place so I can continue coaching in peace. So I enjoy that a lot. That's, I think, the angle I would take.
Yeah, and pool aside, I mean, I could see you got a nice setup going on in the back.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a nerd. I'm a huge nerd. So like my buddy, if you can see my squat rack, my buddy like he built it. He's a welder, and he's like, yeah, come into the shop. Let's build you a squat rack. So I watched the dude build the squat rack right in front of me, which again, welders, my respect is through the roof.
Welders make a lot of money.
Yeah, no, but the work it takes to do that, it's mind blowing. And then, you know, I saved a little money here and there and was able to get like the weights, and and then I have like the Wahoo kicker with the Wahoo climb, and then I have the treadmill here. Like I'm such a nerd about all that stuff, and I don't drink. I just eat a lot of food. So instead, the money I would spend on like going out with friends or going to bars and all this other stuff, or spending it on beers, I put it aside because that's the money I'm going to use to either buy better tires or another pair of running shoes, or a little bit to add more to like to my methodology, my way of thinking is, how can I limit my excuses more and more and more? How can I stop saying I'm limited and just try to avoid all of that and just be able to, there's no reason why I can't run outside or outrun today because it's raining, it's snowing, it's windy, it's a hurricane. No, I got a treadmill, or get on a bike, or, you know, limit my excuses as much as possible. That's how I approach it. Obviously, it's not the same with my wife because she's like, "You're buying another thing," and so it's just, that's what I want to like. I am a product of my environment. My environment is where I grew up and where, you know, my peers and my ecosystem and stuff. But it didn't limit me from being a professional athlete. Like I busted my ass for it, and I truly believe that now it doesn't matter where you're at. If you play your cards right and you bust your ass, you can do it. I mean, at least that's what I'm trying to tell the kids. It's like, don't think that because you don't have your own pool and the X team does or certain people do, you can't make it, because you have guys like,
you've got an ocean.
Like the guy at Coach. Yeah, like we got an ocean. Like we can limit the excuses. Like there's people with less always. So
I kind of view it in the same way. I don't see myself as limited. I see it as I haven't found a way yet.
Yeah, we just haven't found it yet. And I think we can find it if we just stick with it. We just gotta continue moving on forward. And, you know, things get hard, obviously, everything we do. And if it's worth it, it's gonna get super hard. But I mean, just staying consistent with the habit, there has to be a light at the end of that tunnel, no matter what, for whatever it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, it's always a process. And it seems like, you know, you've been doing this for what, 6 years now? And the processes seem to you know, it's been progressing forward from the looks at just at your times, rather if I knew nothing else about you, you know?
Yeah, little by little. I think
there was a big jump in there. There was a big jump in between 1 year to the next. I can't remember what year it was, but you went from like those 440s down to like the 420s, 410s in a half.
Yeah. So I think I accredit that to just proving people wrong. No, I think it's just one of those evolutionary parts of a professional or just an athlete in general, where you find something that clicks, and you're able to like kind of benefit from it. So I went from thinking, shoot, I had to go run super fast every day, or had to do specific sessions, or you know, try to get down to the 5-minute mile mark, and started just slowing down and doing more. And then when I do the fast stuff, making it a little bit more precise. So I accredit that a lot to just trial and error. I mean, shoot, there's races where I wanted to just give up and leave, but I finished, and then, you know, I take the notebook out, and then it's like, what can I do better? What's the next thing? And then there was just a period of time where I failed so many times that I stopped doing those mistakes, and boom, there was like, okay, now I'm getting to the next point. So that's where I'm at now. It's like I'm trying to get to that next barrier. I think the 4-hour barrier for the half is my next. It's right around the corner for me. I truly believe that. And then for the full,
the right course, and it's there, right? You know, you pick the flat course with an easy swim, you're there.
Yeah, but my twisted train of thought is like, there's guys that doesn't matter what course it's on, they're always cracking it. So there is a method that I haven't figured out yet. And obviously, who coaches the coach? Yeah, I would love to have a coach, but I also want to afford a coach, because I believe coaches deserve to get paid, because that's how to work. There's a lot of stuff that coaches do to, make you prepared. So I always advocate for people to get, if you can afford a coach, go with a coach, always. But in my sense, it's like, how can I afford a good coach and pay them? Because me as a coach, like, there's a lot that goes into it. So, but I'm figuring it out. I think I'm going the slower route. I feel like I can be a professional into my 40s because I love the sport that much. And I think I set up my surroundings. I am 30.
Okay. So you've still got a good 10 years at least in the sport.
Yeah. And I got another 10 years to figure things out.
Definitely. And by that point, then you become the tri coach as well as the swim coach.
Yeah. And, we started that too. We have when COVID hit and everything was closed, we started a tri team, like a branch off the swim team. And like currently we have maybe 6 kids that are on that team that are taking it, and some adults as well that are, they're doing their own thing. I don't really coach them per se, but I coach like maybe 5-6 people in triathlon specific, and then I coach runners, and then I coach cyclists in specific, and obviously the swim team I coach. We have around 63 kids on the swim team.
Okay.
I'm surrounded in not just the sport, but I'm surrounded in that lifestyle, and I just absolutely love it. I wake up happy every day.
Yeah,
grateful and happy.
I can definitely understand that. When I was coaching the swimming, it's like I was only doing it like 2 days a week because masters is masters. They don't.
Yep.
But it's like, I look forward to going there, seeing social hour, hanging out with everybody. Yeah, it's definitely a unique experience that I didn't have with the sport growing up, because coaching styles when I was younger, because I'm 36 now, when I was younger, it was kind of like beat your ass with a kickboard if you don't do what I tell you. No, for sure. I've experienced it. Like I've had coaches along the years in all the sports. Yeah. And all it's like, oh, you're not swimming the times, the intervals, I tell you. And then now as an athlete, I think that's one of the advantages I have as a coach, is because I'm still an athlete and I'm still at an elite professional level. I understand when we have days off, or when a kid's going through something, or they're feeling sick, or the girls are going through, their time of the month, or the guys, went through like a breakup, and all these little things that make a person who they are. I'm able to read it pretty quick because shoot, I go through that as well. So there's days where the entire team, I have to back off and say, all right, we're scrapping the rest of practice or the rest of the main set and going to something different, so we can get some benefit out of it, rather than me sitting on the pool deck yelling, screaming, cussing them out because you're not going the intervals I want. You're not doing this. It's just, we're not there every day, but in the sense they are there every day, but we have to be able to accommodate and also be a little flexible. Because I've had those coaches where it's like, coach, I feel like I have the flu. Because I don't care. Make this or I'm kicking you out of practice. So it's just, we have a better understanding, or at least I'm trying to have a better understanding. It's the process is totally different a generation of coaches later. It's just you just can't be as like hard and overly critical of of your swimmers and just people in general, like whether they're students. It's definitely, it's not the whole here's your participation trophy. It's more like, we're not going to be brutal to you anymore.
It's more of having some supreme understanding of like the human as an individual instead of the group as a whole. It's if you can think about it as a lot of little mechanisms, a lot of little gears rolling around each other. Like there's always, you have to take them individually. They're never going to be that one, the one complete thing. There's always going to be something. And if you're not able to adapt and kind of be flexible and mold around those things, I think you can jeopardize an athlete's future by being that way. And again, I still see it. I mean, I'm always at swim meets. I'm always at triathlon. Like I'm always at tri races watching, and like I'm always in that scene. So I mean, you still see it where a couple kids, it's like they're not enjoying it anymore, but it's still their identity. So because it's their identity, they don't know anything different. So they're suffering through that. And that's why you see a lot of burnouts, or you see a lot of kids getting injured, or even adults getting injured, because it's who they are, it's their identity, it's what they socialize with, it's what they proclaim. But because they have the coach, or they have an ecosystem where it's like it's my way or the highway, there's never that room to kind of, mold a little differently or have that leeway of that mental, I guess having that ability to just decompress a little bit from it while still doing it.
Yeah, it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
Yeah, no, I can't stress that enough. If it's not fun, why are we here? And it is that same with coaching and triathlon and swimming and just people speaking. If you're not an enjoyable person, I'm gonna walk away. If you're not having fun, don't do it. And that's a message that I truly think some parents are worth listening to and having some understanding with, because my battle now as a coach is not with the kids, it's with the parents. A lot of it comes down to having the parents understand that you have to just support. Unless you're there yourself, swimming and suffering and going through what they're going through, you shouldn't have too much of a say except how can I support you as an individual? Telling your kids that I'm wasting money on you because you didn't swim faster. Why didn't you drop time? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? It's detrimental to their mental health as well as their athletics, because what I worry after a swim meet in a bad event for an individual isn't the bad event itself for the kid and what I'm going to talk to them. It's the car ride home. The car ride home is what I'm worried about, because they go to practice. When they come back to practice, it's like, my parents really let me have it. They don't understand that this was like a meet where we're all not tapered for, and we're going into it super tired, and they don't understand why I haven't dropped time in the last 2 months or why they're not getting better. It's like, it's so
emotionally stunting it's emotionally stunting to them,
Yes, and it's
long-term ramifications out of it.
Yeah, and they don't burn out. Kids do not burn out if they're enjoying it. If they're having fun and they're progressing, little progressions. You get to a point, and I say this as an elite athlete, you get to a point where it's the little wins, the little progressions. Like my T2 was a little quicker. Like I was able to put my shoe a little faster. Like I was able to run a half a mile quicker and settled into my pace. And like those little things, it takes months to fix and to do, and a lot of experience, like the best teachers experience. And some parents are hounding their children because it wasn't done immediately. Like, why did you drop in this event? Why was this bad? Why did you lose to this person? Or, it's like, instead of, I guess I call it sideline coaching, support them. Hey, you did great today. You tell me one positive thing from this, or what can we do better? But listen, you did great. Like there's meets where there's kids that are blowing my mind. They don't drop time, but they blow my mind in the sense of they hit the wall better. Their kickouts were significantly like superior than they were. Their dive was better. Their reaction, and they come to me and they're like, "Crap, I didn't drop any time." I was like, "Listen, you did this insanely better than before. It's just a matter of tying everything together now. You're going to drop significant time." And then they go to the parents and it's like, all of a sudden you see the kid crying on the sidelines, like, "Oh, I didn't drop time because my parents are mad and now it's sad." And it's like, they're saying they wasted money on me and they're wasting their time on me. And it's like, you can't say that. You can't say that if you want to invest in them for the future. Yeah. It's mostly just encourage them. Again, it's not at the meet, it's not the bad swim, it's the car ride home that always scares me, because they usually come in, especially after COVID, where a lot of these athletes lost their identity and depression started hitting. Like I had a spew of roughly between 8 to 12 kids that came up to me personally and my assistant coach, who they felt more comfortable than going to their teachers or going to their parents, of severe depression. Like, "Hey, I'm thinking of hurting myself. I'm thinking of killing myself," and all that stuff, which I'm not trained for that. Like that's very hard to get that, or to hear an 11-year-old boy say, "Hey, I kind of want to jump off a bridge. Literally, I want to kill myself." And then they go off onto why. And, always the conversation is like, why isn't this presented to like your parents? Like they should be the people to support. And it's like, they're the ones that they're scared of the most, because they hear the rhetorics the parents said before, or the conversations they had in certain things. And those kids, some of them lost their identity during COVID because they were in school, they weren't socializing, they weren't doing much. We didn't have a pool, they were just stuck in limbo. And then they, social media is around and that's still available. And then they see what others are posting, which a lot of it, you can testify to be fake or just propaganda or even just staged. But in their minds, my life is miserable because these people are doing this and I'm suffering because of that. And then it was that, I think the summer of 2020 and on into like the winter was very rough on like the kids' mentality. It was just insanely rough, especially like, and I'm only saying this anecdotal because I'm only talking about like my personal experience, but our pools kept being closed down. We didn't have a place to stay or to do like the workouts. And we had to do workouts in the parking lot of a gym. Like we had to go to like secluded areas to be able to do workouts. And I got trashed by certain people saying, why aren't they wearing masks, or why are they in a group together, or what are they doing? But the moment I even hinted of the idea, it's like, maybe we should back off a little bit so, we don't hurt people's feelings or anything like that. The kids started coming up. It's like, this is all we have. This is it. This is it. The team, my peers, like, this is all we have. And then again, it was rough during that time. I'm not sure it was rough for a ton of people. I'm not, neglecting that, but it just became worse because then they lost their identity in the conversations they were having with their parents coming back into sport. You're not dropping time. You're gaining weight. It's like let the kid be a kid. Let them enjoy it. So I completely understand like the nature of all of that, because it was.
Even as adults, like I went through it because, right before COVID hit, I went through a breakup with my fiance,
Yeah.
And it was very hard because it was essentially, I don't want to be with someone who has brain damage, right? As you can see, I seem like a perfectly normal person, right?
Yeah.
But it was a lot to handle. And then, I went to the isolation of COVID. And when we started racing again a year later, I wasn't loving it. There was something about it that wasn't the same. And I decided for 2023, it's like, we're going to do something different. We're going to do some of the iconic races, and we're going to do less races. Like I'll do Oceanside, then I'll do Roth, and it's like, that'll be my season. Then I'll go on vacation with my parents,
That'll be,
I use my plasma money to go to Roth.
That's awesome. Oh, that's good. That's good. And we as humans, we adapt. We are who we are. So like you and what you went through and who you are at this moment is who you are. And it's amazing because you're able to adapt and continue progressing. And to me, it's motivational simply because you went through this thing that not a lot of people go through, and you're finding a path, you're finding your own path, your own truth, your own method, your own everything, and you're making it work. So there is absolutely no reason why somebody else that goes through something similar or through something of their own to say, listen, there is a path. We just have to grind it out until we figure it out. So that to me, I tip my hat always, because you're still,
I might have to get a coach though if I'm going to race Roth, because I don't want to show up in Germany and lay an egg.
That's my fear for every race. I don't want to show up in that.
Oh yeah. Now my favorite saying as a coach, even when I was coaching masters, it was, the sooner you get in, the sooner you go home.
Exactly. Get it done. That's it. Let's finish and go.
Hey man, thanks for joining me today. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Of course. No, it's raining. It's raining right now. I know around like 12, it's gonna clear out a little bit, and I have an hour run that I'm gonna do. I already biked this morning. I'm early. I'm an early bird. I get up at 4:15. Get ready. I'm on Swift, or I'm outside. I'm doing whatever early. Get the first session before my kid gets up, and then my second session is around this time. So I only have an hour run, and it's just a mellow run. And because it rained, I'm putting on the shoes, I'm blanking. I'm having a mental spaz right now. I'm putting on my dirt shoes, and I'm going and hitting the trails and jumping in the mud a little bit, just to do something different. Break up Yeah, just break up the monotony of being on the treadmill. So I got plenty of time, and I'm not rich in money, but I'm rich in time, and I think I'm the richest person in the world because I have the time to do, you know, things like this, or be able to go at noon and go train for a little bit. So to me, it's my wealth is time. Having time is to me, it's more important than actually having like monetary stuff. So I,
as long as you're getting by, right? It's like, we have
yeah,
we we're good. So
yeah. And I, unfortunately, like I have family in Venezuela, and my mom is one of 8 children. My dad was one of 13 children. Like it's a giant family, and I have a lot still living in Venezuela. And when I'm able to speak to them through WhatsApp or sending them messages, or I'm able to send care packages over there, the amount of joy that they have at the moment with bare minimum, like they celebrate when the electricity's turned on between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. so they can charge their phones and their computers and have internet for that moment, or they are able to, their market that week got more produce, so they're able to go get it, and or they landed a better job, or they're able to do certain things. Like the amount of gratitude that they have really makes any problems that I go through seem like it's, the
small potatoes.
Yeah, it is, and it's all relative. It's all relative because I'm not taking anything for granted for anybody else, but it's the thing, like the little kids that I coach, like the 10 and unders. It's like the we're not, as adults, as coaches, as athletes, we're not scared of like the sets. We're not scared of what we can see. We're scared of what we cannot see. We're scared in our imagination. So as long as we stay positive, humble, or whatever makes you smile and stay within that and not hurt anybody else, I think you'll be happy and live a lot less stress with a lot less stress.
Yeah, that's definitely. And sometimes expectations can be the burden in itself. The better you are, the less equipped you are to handle expectations.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean,
very, very true.
Well, hey man, thanks again for joining me.
Of course, anytime. And when I'm in Atlanta, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot of the same people, so.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a small world. It's a very small world.
Definitely is. Well, take it easy, man. Enjoy your run.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.